Hello everyone, thank you so much to join us today. Today, I will present and show you about the Mikrotik second chapter lab. Let's scroll now and about this configuration. In the second chapter on the Mikrotik configuration, we discuss about dynamic server configuration on Mikrotik. Definition of DHCP, dynamic, is an acronym for Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. The dynamic server function is a device that makes it easy to distribute IP address to a network evenly without the need to do it manually or spread IP address one by one to the device. So if you use the dynamic on or obtain an IP address automatically, your PC or your laptop is request to server request IP, and that is given automatically. Difference about you're using static. If dynamic is installed on local network, all computers connected to the network will get an IP address automatically from the dynamic server. Apart from the IP address, many network parameters can be provided by dynamic, such as a default gateway and DNS server. Dynamic server will later provide an IP address loaned to the connected host computer. It's a computer that functions to provide the IP address to existing hosts. Meanwhile, a host that gets an IP address from dynamic server is usually called a dynamic client. So, where there is a server, there must be a client too. Okay, before the start configuration dynamic server, sure your laptop or your PC is connected to router board Mikrotik series. I have been connected, and first open the Winbox application. If you don't have Winbox, you can download by my description in bottom and click run is Mikrotik. Refresh until the F. Okay, click connect. Login by MAC address and the login is admin. Password is blank. Right? This point view about Winbox. Now we make a dynamic server, and we must make an IP address for the header for the interface. Now we check the interface running. The command is interface print. Okay, just my computer and my router board is connected between in the other two using a single LAN cable. You does not recommendedly using the other one. Other one is using by ESP, Internet Service Provider. You can use Ether 2 until Ether 5. Right? Now, create an IP address for the Ether interface whose status is currently running. We make an IP address for the Ether 2 because Ether 2 is running. The command is IP address address. Example is 192.168.43.1/24. Interface is Ether 2. Enter. We check again in IP address print because I have make a IP address for Ether 2. We check its IP address print. Okay, as you can see in the other two have the network is 192.168.43 and 0.0, and the 0.1 is using address. Now we have IP address for the other two. We can make a dynamic server setup. Type in the terminal IP dynamic server setup. Now just enter. The dynamic server interface is Ether 2 because we have IP address for Ether 2, and this dynamic server address space is automatically in the one network in Ether 2 is automatically, and enter. Gateway is automatically, enter, and the address give out is automatically in the point 2 until 254, and enter. DNS I using the Google. This DNS is open source. Anyone can use them. Enter. And list time is 10 minutes. This list time, when a client using this IP, client have time is 10 minutes, and the 10 minutes is left, the client is request again the IP address. Now enter. Check the IP dynamic server print. Okay, I have make a setup for a dynamic server in the Ether 2 and the list time is 10 minutes. Now check your local computers. Click right, open network and connection settings. If you using this Windows 7, open network and sharing center. Right, change other options. And then Ethernet 2, properties. Click right, properties. And then TCP IP4. You must obtain an IP address automatically, because I make dynamic setup. Okay, just click OK and OK. We check in the status now. The client is get IP in details, and you can see IP address for the client is 192.168.43.254. This IP using still in Ether 2. Now we check the Winbox whose client is connected. The command is IP dynamic server list print. Okay, that you can see is that is flag is D. That means it's dynamic because I'm configuration dynamic server configuration, and this flag is D, and this address is same in the client, right? Is same, but why the IP is in the last, not in the first? You can see the IP is 0.2 until 254. Why the client not using 0.2 in the first? Not and why is 254? Why not 0.2? Because the Winbox only now in last IP. So if you have two clients, is client 1 in the client 1, the IP is using is last IP 0.254. If you using a second users, the IP is changed 192.168.43 and the point 253. If you using client 2, is client 1 and client 2, just in the last to the first, not the first to the last. Okay, last to the first. Close and close, and we make a dynamic server, and the client have get the IP. And so in the Mikrotik second lab about the configuration of dynamic server is completed. So then I less more. Please sorry. Keep stay tuned and curious in next configuration chapter 2 in next my videos. Bye bye.